When did people start wearing clothes, and since then, has nudity no longer been a necessity in everyday life? This question takes us back to the deep past, exploring the evolutionary process of humanity and the relationship between humans and the surrounding social environment. In today's world, the image of people wearing clothes has become so familiar that imagining living naked often seems like a luxurious concept. But there was a time when wearing clothes did not exist. People lived in the most natural way, in harmony with nature, without the need for clothes. What prompted people to switch from being naked to being clothed? Is it because of cultural evolution, the need to protect the body against harsh natural elements, or is it for some other reason? To find the answer, we need to get lost in the legacies of the past, exploring how society, culture, and technology have changed over time. With a deep understanding of human history and evolution, we can trace our development from nude to clothed, exploring cultural elements and cores. Environmental factors have shaped the world we know today. Let's get lost on a journey through time and space to discover the answer to the question, when will we stop being naked? In 1913, William Matthews, a leading archaeologist, led an excavation team at the Tarkhan Cemetery in Egypt, an event that filled with curiosity and excitement, but also assuaged frustration. Petra, another member of the group, Matthews's curiosity and desire to explore stemmed from a nearby tomb that had been opened, creating very different emotions within the excavation team. Petra, an ambitious young archaeologist, puts his faith in a great discovery, but faces disappointment when he enters the tomb and discovers that it has become a tomb. Empty, nothing left but 5 ancient Chalite vases, to wooden utensils with traces of time, and a pile of dirty linen. However, among the ordinary linen fragments, there was a special discovery that was denied, a mystery that after more than 60 years remains unsolved. In 1977, a miraculous discovery surprised those working at the museum. In the pile of dirty laundry they were examining, there lay a mysterious linen dress, not only wonderfully preserved, but also in an extremely impressive state. Dubbed the Tarkhan dress, this dress has become a precious historical artifact since its restoration in 2015. With an age of nearly 5,500 years, it is not only a piece of the past, but also a vivid picture of the life and culture of prehistoric people. The durability and strength of linen make this dress one of the oldest garments ever discovered and studied. Although the ancient Egyptians were probably not the first people in history to wear clothes, determining exactly when the practice began remains a complex problem for researchers. The deepest historical evidence of advanced clothing often comes from harsh and underdeveloped lands. However, through research, we learned that wearing clothes in ancient times also had certain reasons and purposes similar to modern times. Clothing is not simply a way to protect the body from environmental factors associated with daily life, but is also a means of cultural, social, and personal expression of the wearer. Clothing was once carefully crafted by hand, often made from natural materials such as wool, linen, or animal skin, giving each design a special insight into life and perspective, ethnic, community, or even specific characteristics of the wearer. However, a big challenge in learning about ancient costumes is that the designs are often very fragile and difficult to preserve. Their existence spans thousands of years of history, so finding and preserving them requires special attention and patience. Fabrics left over from ancient times often have to endure harsh preservation conditions, such as the arid conditions of ancient tombs or mountainous red soil environments. The search for Tarkin's dress is a prime example of this. However, currently, there are no special conditions to preserve fabric for so long that we can detect it. Another example is that during excavations at the Çatal Höyük site in Turkey in 1964, archaeologists found loose pieces of woven fabric. Subsequent analysis showed they were probably made from plant fibers, specifically flax. This again makes it clear that dressing may have begun much earlier than previously thought. About 8,500 years ago, 3,000 years ago, the black shirt appeared, marking an important step in proving the existence of clothing from small pieces of woven fabric. Although it is not usually thought of as a type of clothing that exists as a special object, like a shirt hanging on a hanger in a store that we can try on, wear, and buy, it can also be considered the first product of prehistoric humans. This involves spinning the fabric into yarn, cutting and sewing the fabrics together to create a complete garment. While there may be steps in this process that seem insignificant when considered in the historical record, this does not mean they did not exist elsewhere than Zhuhai Cave in Georgia. Archaeologists discovered hundreds of pieces of flax fiber at the discovery site, some of which were woven and at least one piece had several platinum knots, evidence that the fibers were prepared in advance, available for use. Notably, some fibers are very durable, dark turquoise blue, and there are even pink fibers, both of which have been found in ancient finds. It has been suggested that these fibers were the product of the colorful local textile industry. However, although these finds are valuable treasures and provide insight into ancient life, they are still not our oldest evidence of the past. The viability of fibers and fragile organic materials such as flax, leather, and wood is also less likely than other materials such as stone and ceramic, so scientists must seize the opportunity every time they search. If you have ever sewn your own clothes, you will understand that in addition to fabric, special tools such as needle and thread are needed. Therefore, finding these types of tools can be considered intermittent evidence of the existence and use of clothing in the past. In this case, needle rings were considered indispensable, and a small, thin needle was found deep in Sabodo Cave in South Africa. Ancient documents have explained that it was used to delicately pierce animal skin, possibly for sewing or assembling pieces of fabric or leather into pieces of clothing. If so, these needle rings in Sabodo Cave could be considered the oldest evidence of the use of clothing, with an age of about 61,000 years, an extremely valuable measure of the development of the culture, civilization, and progress of people in history. The discovery of needles in Sabodo Cave is not only an ancient object of historical value, but also opens a new perspective, the time and process of creating objects in human history. This raises questions about the final steps of the manufacturing process, from the operation of the materials and their assembly. When we wear clothes, we not only create a new cultural and social picture, but also create a new ecological system for the series of creatures that live on our premises. Fabrics, leather and fabrics create a warm and moist environment for bacteria and viruses to grow, as well as providing a hiding place for parasites. This was brought to light by an inhabitant of that ecological system who said that Homo sapiens were wearing some type of clothing 61,000 years ago. The earliest evidence of clothing used by Homo sapiens may lead to the surprising discovery of anti-lice. In fact, there are two types of lice that we know of on humans: head lice and body lice. Each of these has a unique engagement with the user base. Headworms, as their name suggests, usually exist and feed on the scalp, creating favorable conditions for growth and reproduction. Meanwhile, body lice mainly live on human clothing, taking advantage of the warmth and moisture that the fabrics provide to survive and continue their life chain. Scientists have been tracking the divide between these two types of lice, and based on their research, They have come to the strong conclusion that the divide between head lice and body lice may have began to take place when the use of clothing began to become more common among ancient people. Through analyzing DNA fragments of head lice and body lice, scientists have deduced that this separation may have begun between 83,000 and 170,000 years ago, a staggering amount of time in the past history of human development. This is the earliest known date for the use of clothing, marking a major step forward in human evolution. The study of lice is not only an exploration of their origins and properties, but also offers insight into the critical moment when people began to wear clothes. If we look at our most recent relatives, the Neanderthals, we will see that they had to cope with the harsh climatic conditions of winter in every way. Although whether or not Neanderthals wore clothing is controversial, there is other evidence that may suggest they may have used some type of clothing to protect their bodies from the cold. This raises a series of questions and hypotheses about the development and evolution of cultural dress since ancient times. One of the popular theories about clothing making from ancient times is the use of ice plows to extract soft tissues from animal skins, which were then used to craft clothing such as cloaks. Recent studies of animal bones found among ancient inhabitants have suggested which species may have been used to make clothing. In addition, animal fur can also be used to create warm fabrics. The abundance of these animals is often found in areas inhabited by Homo sapiens, which may indicate a difference in the frequency of clothing use between the two groups of ancient humans and pre-existing animals live close to them. It is likely that early humans used these mammals for fur as lining for their clothes, helping them protect against colder weather, a practice that is still common today. Although we still have much to know about exactly what ancient clothing looked like, there is evidence that can be discovered in museum collections, waiting to be discovered and analyzed. Researchers are working to develop new methods to extract data from old finds and from ancient sites, opening up new opportunities to learn about the history and development of clothing in human society. If we can learn information about ancient clothing from body lice, where can our next piece of evidence be found? Maybe the truth awaits us wherever we are, and we are working hard to find evidence of clothing from the past, from newly discovered relics to found historical documents. This whole process is not only a journey of discovery about human culture and history, but also an adventure of knowledge and understanding, opening up new opportunities to delve deeper into the mystery of human history and shed light on the development of human society. Our video today stops here. Thank you all for listening, goodbye and see you again.